The other day, I was sort of sitting and meditating on, some of the topics that I want to talk about in this series, particularly this week when we're talking more about growth and relationships and breakups and all those things. And it I got this download that was super interesting. And Spirit was like, why don't you talk about the two F's in relationships? And no, it's not the F that you may be thinking about. Fear and fantasy, and how these two are very much connected in the realm of relationships, romantic relationships specifically. And it got me thinking and it got me down this rabbit hole of fear and fantasy and how what is hidden in relationships can oftentimes speak so much louder than what is visible, and how what's hidden in relationships is often hidden within ourselves or the things that we are very much trying to hide. And when we talk about what's hidden, when we talk about the shadow, the darkness, we talk about the 12th house in our natal chart. So the 12th house is the house of what is hidden, but it's also the house of self undoing. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I'll explain that in a second. It's what's hidden. It's our inner world. It's our subconscious. And in the realm of relationships, that subconscious, that inner world, that hidden realm can be packed with a lot of things. Now, when I think about the 12th house, I also think about spirituality and how spirituality, it's this larger than life kind of concept, right? And it got me thinking about the fantasy F in this equation, which is how we're sort of force fed an ideal, a standard which may or may not be attainable in real life, but it's a fantasy nonetheless. It's an ideal. I mean, especially as a woman, or even if you identify as a woman, Disney has fucked us up for quite a while. And let me not even just say women, it's fucked up everybody because it's given you the Prince Charming trope. It's given you the damsel in distress and the princess and all of these things. It's a fantasy that we all try to turn into reality. And what happens when we try to live up to a fantasy? Anything that doesn't fit into that fantastical narrative, you hide, aka the realm of the 12th house. It could be parts of your life, it could be parts of yourself, it could be viewpoints, it could be opinions that you hide in order to facilitate the fantasy. And then that eventually brings in the second F, which is fear. Fear of being found out, fear of being rejected, fear of ridicule, fear of isolation is often the impetus and the motivation behind hiding, keeping things secret. Now, there's sort of two camps when it comes to hidden things. Things that are hidden because you're just not conscious of them, which is a lot of our subconscious programming, but things that you keep hidden because you are afraid of them seeing the light of day. Neither of the, like, you can think about both of those equally. One is not better than the other. They're just two flavors of the same general thing, right? Going back to fantasy, that ideal gets many of us in a trap that I don't like to call it, but this trap is called potential. Because we are so focused on the fantasy. Anything that looks like it could be the fantasy, we're like, yeah, let me go with this. This person is talking a good game. They could do this, they could do that. We could do this. We could travel the world together. We could be a power couple. We could, whatever. But it's hiding the reality of maybe the fact that you're not compatible. Maybe you are too different. Whatever's hidden needs to see the light of day. And in the case of your subconscious, it will see the light of day. That subconscious programming has no choice but to project itself into your reality. It always does, it always did, and it always will. What you suppress will come oozing out at some point or another. And that can be a very scary thing. We don't want to reveal our secrets. We don't want to reveal our soft side. We don't want to reveal our true selves, of course, for fear of rejection and all of those things. But the point that I want to bring up with this video is examining your shadow. That's such an important part of personal development and therefore an important part of relationship. I cannot stress that enough. Your shadow self invariably will see the light of day. Wouldn't you want to, let me not say that because it's hard. Shadow work is hard work. It is. I feel like as of late, definitely within the last decade, um, it's the thing to do. It's the phrase that pays. Shadow work, do the work. Okay. But when you're really in it, that shit is hard. Shit is hard. It's like, do I really want to level up or do I kind of just want to stay where I'm at? Because it can be grueling. But imagine how it can negatively affect your relationships if you don't do it. Ugh. Sorry, I had to take a moment of personal reflection and how I was in relationships before I did shadow work, and how, in hindsight, there were parts of myself I refused to see. And even when they came out in the light of day, even when partners pointed them out to me, they were still hidden from my consciousness, or I was turning a blind eye to them. And in hindsight, I see how that contributed to some of my relationships not working. That shadow, not owning it, not integrating it. Now, here's the thing, and this kind of piggybacks off my last video about when desire and passion wane. Oftentimes, especially in the context of relationships, we could be doing life with someone, going through life with someone, learning lessons, but there will invariably always be a time where you need to learn your own lessons. I've said before, it's like you can be in a relationship with someone for years, but there's going to be times where you have side quests. And by side quests, I don't mean you cheat and you have a sneaky link. I don't mean that. I mean that there are certain lessons you need to learn on your own, and it requires isolation. And that isolation doesn't necessarily mean that you separate, although sometimes it could. It just means that maybe you need more quiet time, more alone time. And if there's insecurity, if there's fear there, of course that can negatively impact the relationship, but it's necessary because we have to examine our shadow selves. And that does require isolation. It requires owning your own shit. It requires looking at your own shit. It requires understanding who you are, why you do what you do, what subconscious programming is playing out in your life. What time are you really on? You need to examine that and then integrate that, not just for your relationship, but for your own personal development. Because here's the thing, part of the fantasy, part of the narrative is like, I have a better half out there. There's a Greek mythological tale about how everyone is born as a pair and then you're separated and you spend your life looking for your other half. I personally don't believe that because we're all whole human beings. And when we enter relationships whole, meaning that we have integrated our light and our shadow selves, it makes the relationship richer. It makes the relationship, I think, more sustainable. This is when you can have real, authentic relationships. It's when you're coming in as half a person and you're looking for your other arm and all these things that I think that relationships become less sustainable at that point. But either way, if we cannot admit who we are to ourselves, it's going to be really hard to admit who we are to our partners. Hence the fear. If you don't want to own parts of yourself, how can you? And again, it is all determined by what kind of relationship you want with someone. It's not the case that you have to bare your soul to everyone, but the type of partnership that we're even conditioned to have requires that. It requires understanding yourself so you can understand others, knowing yourself so you can eventually know others. And remember, it's an ongoing endeavor. It's not something that you say, oh, I know you, and then that's it. People change, situations change, we evolve. But if you're constantly willing to allow your hidden parts to be revealed, sounding kind of dirty, allow those hidden parts of your being to be revealed and accepting them. That's the thing, accepting them. That's a whole other thing. Because we can be cognizant of certain parts of ourselves, but we shame ourselves. We're riddled with guilt, which is another reason where fear comes in and creeps in because we are fearful of revealing this to our partners because they will guilt us, they will shame us because we feel guilt and shame within ourselves. That's a natural thing, and that's something that you work at, right? But the 12th house, it's so rich with information. Especially thinking about and going back to the things that are hidden because they are deep in our subconscious. Those are the things that end up running the show, whether we are conscious of it or not. Well, by virtue of it being unconscious, clearly we're not conscious of it, but you get what I'm saying, right? It's like I could go in so many different directions with this. But what I'll say is that if there is a subconscious fear, a subconscious insecurity, something that's been handed down to you from your family, that could be running the show. And that may not be indicative of not only who you are, but the type of relationship that you want or the relationship that is aligned with you. Your shadow is nothing to be ashamed of. It's you, it's part of you. When you walk out on a sunny day and the sun casts your shadow, are you mad at your shadow? Are you saying, don't follow me? Are you saying you're not worthy? You shouldn't be attached to me? No, it's there. It's there. And coincidentally, it's very visible when the sun is out, when the light is out. The truth will always cast light on the shadows. This is all the realm of the 12th house that I'm speaking about right now. That's why everything will always see the light of day. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, it could be 50 years from now, but the truth will always be known. It will always come to light. And me personally, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, I'd rather get ahead of that. I'd rather understand my shadow. And it's not to say I meet someone and on first meeting, oh, this is what happened to me when I was 6, and this is no. It's about integrating that shadow, being comfortable with that shadow, and then standing 10 toes down on who I am as a person, all parts of me, even the parts that don't necessarily see the light of day initially. Now, the 12th house, when I think about the 12th house and I think about spirituality, it brings up empathy and compassion, which is something that you don't see much of. You don't hear much of in relationship speak these days. Nobody wants to give compassion. Nobody wants to understand. The realm of spirituality is love for all. It's universal love. And it reminds me of something that I had meditated on a couple of months ago, and how I think that a lot of people don't really inherently believe in the goodness of people. I think that everyone is conditioned to think that everyone is a scammer, a fraud. You will think the worst of people before you think of their goodness. And some of these people who think this way are people who ascribe to ideologies, who say that, who believe that God created everything. And if God created something, why would God create something inherently bad out the gate? Right? And so, in the realm of relationships, we don't give empathy, we don't give compassion, we don't give universal love because we don't think people are good in and of themselves. We think that people are their mistakes. We think that people are their past. We think that people are just nasty. We think that people are the Antichrist. We'll think the worst of people before we would even allow ourselves to think of the goodness of people. Now, this isn't to be a Pollyanna about it and just go around skipping thinking that nobody's going to hurt you. There's a balance here, but people are inherently good. They really are. Life has just been lifing. People made choices that weren't the best. People got involved in things that weren't that good. People hurt because they were hurt. It doesn't make them bad people. People are inherently good. And when you understand that and really believe that, you can give people compassion. You can give people understanding. You can give people empathy. Because honestly, wouldn't you want that too? Or are you perfectly fine with people thinking that you're a deadbeat, that you're a piece of shit, that you are a horrible person? If you're okay with that, then fine. You've got free will. You can think however you want to think. But if we're talking about what we keep hidden, especially in the terms of relationships, we keep it hidden because we believe that people will think the worst of us. And we think that because clearly people don't think that people are inherently good. And that's sad. That's sad to me. Again, it's not to give everyone a pass and say, oh, everyone's good. It doesn't matter what you did. Yes, people will hurt you in this lifetime. That is the nature of being human. You hurt people sometimes. You make bad decisions sometimes. You do things that people would consider shameful or that people would guilt you for. We all have. All of us, every single one of us. There is not one of us who doesn't have something that someone could say that's shameful, shame on you, or you should feel guilty about this, or you're a piece of shit, or you're a deadbeat, or you're not a good friend, or what. We are all the villain in somebody's story. So if that's the case, then why can't we just, and I know this is gonna sound so kumbaya, but like, why can't we all just love each other? We're all pieces of shit. We've all done things, right? It's the nature of being human. And keeping things hidden, it's like a snowball. Could start out real small, and then before you know it, it turns into this huge thing. Imagine, and this sort of speaks on several of the videos that I just posted. You see, my dog agrees. She's like, yes, girl. Um, you are not feeling your partner sexually, or your partner is not sexually satisfying you. Instead of saying that, you keep it hidden. And then what do? You start cheating. Then you break up the relationship. It's not to say that it would be an easy conversation to have. I think I said that in the last video. It's not like the communication itself would be easy, but do you see how it could snowball from one thing to the next to the next? That snowball effect could be really detrimental to your relationships. And again, we all have our reasons for keeping things hidden, but it's gonna see the light of day anyway. So you might as well be honest with yourself and with them. There is this interplay when we're talking about the 12th house, when we're talking about things that are hidden in relationships, there is this interplay between light and dark, falsehood, fantasy, and truth, right? And sometimes when you really think about it, there isn't a clear line that separates the two. There are shades of gray, there's wonkiness, there's so much. And again, if it sounds like I'm all over the place with this video, I am. I'll admit it, I am. But what I want you to take away from this is to be aware that there are emotional blind spots. We all have them. There are things that we all want to hide. We all have a shadow self. And apart from just relationships, examining your shadow self is a worthwhile endeavor for self, for your personal development. Remember, I think it is best to enter relationships as a whole person. And to understand your entirety, you need to understand your shadow. You need to integrate your shadow. So, to avoid things like fear, lying, cheating, emotional blind spots, emotional escapism, shadow work is key. Now, one thing I find about spirituality is they'll talk about things ad nauseum, but not really explain what it is. And sometimes people talk in parables and all these things. The question becomes, well, how do you do shadow work? I have a somewhat simplistic answer for that. And this was an answer that I discovered when I had that question. You just keep asking why. I feel sad. Why do I feel sad? Well, I feel sad because my partner isn't talking to me. Why isn't my partner talking to me? Well, they're going through a lot at work. There's your answer. Like, it can really be as simple as that. Sometimes shadow work is like meant to be depicted as this lifelong thing, and you're always human, and you're always, sometimes it could be as simple as, I feel sad because they're not talking to me. They're not talking to me because they're busy. Or it could be indicative of something deeper, which requires you to ask more. Why? More whys. But the whole point of asking why is to get to a deeper level until you get to the very bottom, the very essence, the truth. So when people say, do the work, do your shadow work, that's a great way, at least to begin doing it. Now, it's not the only component of shadow work. There is healing. First, there's acknowledgement, acknowledging the shadow. Sometimes the shadow just wants to be acknowledged. Then there's healing and processing through whatever is coming up. Then there's integrating the lesson and integrating that part of yourself, removing shame and guilt and all of those things, right? But shadow work is a worthwhile endeavor. It fortifies relationships, it strengthens emotional and even spiritual bonds in relationships. Look at your 12th house. Look at what sign is your 12th house, what planets are in your 12th house. That can help you begin to understand your shadow side, what's hidden, either from yourself and or from your relationships, what you don't want to see the light of day. But that's not just where it ends. It's not like, okay, look at your natal chart and boom, that's your shadow side. What have you been through in life? What makes you feel insecure? What makes you feel fearful? What are you ashamed of? What do you feel guilty about? All of those things fall into that hidden realm, that shadow side as well. Examine those, acknowledge those, integrate them. To say that it's a worthwhile endeavor is literally an understatement. But if you're looking to have better relationships, shadow work. I think I could have summed up this video in that one sentence, right? But of course, I have a Leo North node, so I have to add a little drama to it nonetheless. But yeah, shadow work, do it. That's essentially all I've got for you for this video. All right. And so if you want to know more about your shadow, I can definitely help you with that. My signature natal chart experience, the blueprint, book a clarity call, link for everything that you may need is in the description box below. And thanks for tuning into this video. I know that I make light about a lot of these topics. But once you start doing the work, things do invariably become a little easier. You can make light of it. Don't get me wrong, when you're deep in that shadow work, it could feel like you are in the eye of a storm or you are in the darkest tunnel for years sometimes. It's not easy work, but it is worthwhile. Again, not just for your relationships, but for your personal development. When you enter a relationship whole, you can have a whole relationship. It can really be that simple. All right, my loves, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care.